Hi, it's Phil Buchanan from Cannon Financial with another Cannon Connects, reaching out to different business leaders in the financial services industry and beyond to talk about how their business has evolved in the midst of the global pandemic, but also to focus on steps that they're taking to keep workforces engaged, energized, and proactive. Today's interview is with Jay Hummel, who is CEO of Wealth Advisor Growth Network. Excited to have Dani Wright, Senior Vice President for Wells Fargo. She is the Southeastern Regional Productivity Manager. That's a mouthful, Dani. Today I'm joined by Gary Stringer, who is the CEO and Chief Investment Officer of Stringer Asset Management. Today I've got a very unique guest. He is my business partner and longtime pal, Shane O'Neill. Proud to be joined by Kimberly Beck, Head of Wealth Marketing for Envestnet. Excited to welcome Esti Ferranda. She is CEO of PFS Investments, which is a division of Primerica. I'm very excited to have Professor Mark Whitty of the College of Charleston. He's an economics professor, having taught at the College of Charleston since 2007. Excited today to be joined by Tim Stinson, Head of Wealth Management for Cetera Financial Group. Very excited today to have Tash Elwyn, who's President and CEO of Raymond James and Associates, with us. Today I'm talking to CEO of Wealth Care Planning, Kevin Ruth. Today we're joined by Rob Varner, Executive Vice President and Managing Director of Retail Brokerage for Synovus Securities. That is a subsidiary of Synovus Financial Corp. Today I'm joined by Stuart Allen, President and CEO of Allen Trust Company in Portland, Oregon. In addition to that role, Stuart also serves as president of the Association of Trust Organizations. Today, I'm excited to introduce Lindsey, who is president and CEO of Success Financial Corporation out of Grand Rapids. Really excited to welcome Anthony Williams, a CWS certificate and president of the Orthopedic Advisory Group of Tempe, Arizona. As I understand it, you and 7 other family members decided at the end of February, first part of March, to take what was to be a 2-week cruise.
Well, this was right on the beginning of this pandemic. So I think if we had had dates pushed back 2 to 4 days, we probably would have chosen not to gone. But nonetheless, upon our arrival in San Antonio, Chile, the port where we were to disembark, the Chilean government told us to kick rocks, effectively. They would not be accepting any cruise ships. We circled there for a couple days. Then we traveled to Valparaiso, that coast, because they were able to refuel us while anchored in the harbor and then provide us with provisions. And instead of a 15 March disembarkation date, thankfully, the United States accepted us on 30 March in San Diego.
Just at about the time you were to have disembarked, the market started to get, very volatile, free fall type scenarios. I can't imagine being an advisor, working with a very unique blend of clients like you have, and to be stuck on a cruise ship.
That was rough. Being disconnected from family, from friends, from the business, in a manner of speaking, of course, we're never fully disconnected. Was anxiety-ridden, to say the least.
Things have changed in the last couple of weeks, and to your question, you don't realize how much you rely on human interaction to get things done when you're in an office environment until it's just simply not there, and it is fascinating. To see how people work together and collaborate. You also quickly figure out the limitations of, just day-to-day problem solving and things that you rely on. Be able to walk down the hall and be able to, call out and meet face-to-face. But there's so many things that you rely on that you just don't have access to. So what we have been trying to do is just communicate and over-communicate. And that starts at, the top of the house. And it goes all the way down through our managers and through daily contact. And what you quickly realize is that people need that communication. It's great to have, to not have the noise, and not have the distractions that you can sometimes have in an office. But it's very important, at least it is around here, that, you know, people hear from you, people are talking to you, and that everybody's on the same page. You know, there are certainly limits to email and text and all that. And I think people are really, really needing that human interaction. And goodness knows I've had more video chats, you know, Zoom chats, here we are, than I've ever had in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, that's so you know, the key to us really is communication and clarity of expectations, is how we've tried to keep things positive and keep things moving in the right direction.
I am high energy. I bounce off the walls a lot of times. I'm always looking to do something. And the unique thing that I think I have found that a lot of people, if you're not on it, I absolutely would get on it for purposes of work and family and friends. This helps with the sanity. There's an app out there called Marco Polo. And Marco Polo is an app where it's essentially video walkie-talkie where you can create a group. And I have a team of 6 that are currently on this Marco Polo, which is my entire team, our internal that is in St. Louis. And what we do is we connect every day. So being the leader, every morning I get up, and this is key, I have a routine. And the first thing they see in the morning is a video from me saying, good morning, let's get after it today. Let's have a great day. Let's remember that our getting outside is important. Making sure that we take care of ourselves is important so we can take care of others. This has created an environment of a lot of laughter and also a lot of problem solving, because what I'm finding is my team needs that outlet. They're on the phone with advisors all day. They are all homebound now, and they're road warriors as well.
Personally, I've done a lot of things with my team, so I'm trying to just make sure that we're communicating more frequently. So making sure that we're touching in, me and my management team, we touch base on a daily basis, but having some fun events too, right? So we've had a couple virtual happy hours. We're having a team talent show where some stupid pet tricks might actually come through. And then we're doing a trivia night as well. So I think fun things like that, you know, everybody's working so hard and working extra hours throughout the day, but taking time aside for just having some fun together and reconnecting, even if it is virtually, I think that's the way. Our human resources team has been phenomenal, just about continuing to communicate to all of our employees and making sure that everybody is in the know and working on the same things. We're having regular touch bases with all employees across the country. I should say countries, because we have a pretty large staff in India as well. So making sure that we're regularly communicating and also addressing questions. So making sure that we're listening to their concerns and their needs, and we're responsive to them.
We're levering off of technology like Zoom, which we're using right now ourselves. So it's increasing productivity in many respects. I think we're levering off of team huddles on a daily basis. There's typically one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Even little things like we have a platform called Jabber, which is essentially instant messaging to keep the teams very connected and very important. I'm also happy to report that happy hour is still happening. It's just virtual, right? 6, 7 o'clock at night, people are still sitting around on Zoom with a couple of cocktails in hand, et cetera. So those things are really important as well. I would also tell you, Phil, that we've set up some rules, right? And one of our rules that I think is really, really showing well for the organization is this attitude of no apologies. Right? We're accepting the fact that things are different. And if a kid comes into the background screaming, or there's a dog barking or something like that, that's just our new norm. There's no apologies associated with that. One of my favorites, quite frankly, was a cat actually attacked a monitor in the middle of a meeting for one of our colleagues as well. So we're sort of bringing levity to those types of situations because it's really required. And then I think that the last thing that I'll share with you is that the background, your background that you have there behind you. It's really offered an opportunity to get to know people a little bit better in their own personal surroundings, to build relationships. I mean, I've had people that I've worked with for 10 years now. I didn't know they played guitar. Oh, how did I know that? Because the guitar in their office is sitting there right behind them. I'm like, you play guitar? I didn't even know that. So from a relationship perspective, just seeing your own personal surroundings and being able to see your clients, your partners, and your colleagues' personal surroundings offer another level of relationship to get to know people a little better.
Got to meet a lot of dogs this week, last couple of weeks. The stigma of having a dog barking in the background or a kid running around, that's kind of gone away. That's kind of the new normal. We really get to know people a little bit better by seeing kind of their own environment. Sometimes that makes them more comfortable. I do think with Zoom, we happen to use Teams. There's some other products out there to catch people up.
I agree. It breaks down the barriers in a way. You see into people's homes, right? And they see into yours. And to your point, it increases the humanity really across the board. And I think it's something that I am really you've got to find some enjoyment in this, Phil. It's definitely something I'm finding enjoyment in for sure. And I know a lot of other people are as well.
We've all gone, all Zoom all the time. And so one of the things I've really learned over the last several weeks is the power of video and the power of that personal interaction and that face-to-face interaction. As I think over my career, as a general rule, I used to hate doing conference calls, and I used to hate being on those long phone meetings. And what I really realize now with Zoom is that, I don't think I would ever do a conference call again. I think it would always be by video. Our need to connect and our need to see other people is so important. And so what we've been doing at Wealth Care Planning over the last 3 or 4 weeks is all of our prospect calls are on Zoom. Our client calls are on Zoom. And when we talk to our investors, we do an investor call with all of them on Zoom. And so this idea of just going to video is something I think is here. It's going to last. And I think we all need to embrace it.
I personally have been forced to use technology in ways that I have not used it before. So in the past, I would be the one who would dial into a call, but would never turn the video conferencing on. And now I realize that human connection and seeing other people is so important. I think all of our sales and service teams are having the same experience, right? They're not traveling at all. Where pretty much they were on the road all the time, but they found a way to make the best use of webcams and technology, and have really kind of fine-tuned how they're using all that technology.
Wholesaler tell me when I was first in the business 30 years ago, he said, you are in a business that is that thrives on intimacy, and it's not intimacy like one might think of that in some context. It's really just the intimate relationships that humans have with one another, because good advisors, as you well know, that's their fuel. That's what they live on, is this one-on-one relationship. If it's a social setting or a business setting, they love being eyeball to eyeball with someone else and engaging with them. That's what gives them their fire and their juice. And we've taken that away from them. So the only thing we can do, and what we've been preaching to our guys from day one, is call your customers, call your customers, call your customers. That's all you can do. And that's it. Even if it's just to call them up and say, how's Johnny? How's Spot the dog? I mean, what's going on in your life? It's just trying their best to maintain that relationship with them as best they can, even though they can't be.
Historically, where maybe we would have done a phone call for a meeting, for a quick debrief with a client, there is no question that this type of interface has been more personable than I ever gave it credit for. I figured, oh, it's a Zoom meeting. It's the same thing. I still can't shake your hand, Phil. I still can't give you a hug, Phil. Like we can't have some coffee together. But I mean, I know we both have our coffee, and it's, kind of a similar setup, but that ability to have the nonverbal communication, it's just different than a phone call. And I think those are going to be the primary, less travel, more Zoom calls with folks, or whatever interface we decide to move forward due to security, but we'll see.
Conversations like this are a great example of what we found is working so well for us. So for example, previously, as we started out talking about how we would travel all the time, and we still will do that. And this is a relationship business, and people want to see and meet you and know you, and that we think that's important. But if we're not on planes and in cars all the time, that actually frees up more time for conversations like this. So we're doing a lot of impromptu conversations, if it's conference calls, WebExes, or just one-on-one phone calls. For example, I spent yesterday afternoon talking with an advisor that we've done business with for 15 years. And it was really just a touching base. We were specifically talking about the energy sector, but also went into, hey, what books are you reading now? You know, so it's actually creates more time, more efficient engagement. Now it's not face-to-face, but the less time we're spending on airplanes and in rental cars is more time that we can spend with our clientele, either by a phone call or WebEx or what have you. You know, so it doesn't have to be a formal engagement. And what we're finding is a lot of interaction informally is leading to tighter relationships, stronger bonds with our clientele. They better understand us, we better understand them. And that just breeds that loyalty and that familiarity to build the business. Once we got on the other side of this thing, we'll be that much stronger going forward.
It's just the acceleration of the medium that you and I are using right now, or WebEx. The world was already obviously moving down that path, and we've been moving down the path of e-sig and those kinds of electronic means of doing things. But this face-to-face medium, be it Zoom or WebEx, has been shoved forward. It's been mandated now as a way of communicating with other humans. And whereas before you could get away with maybe not doing that, but the technology's been there, right? But now it's for old codgers like me, you know, we kind of avoided it. It wasn't something that we really wanted to jump into. I could do it, but now I've had to become somewhat of a semi-expert in WebEx because I'm on it all day long. And but so I think that being shoved in that is now going to make it easier, frankly, for if one Monday or Tuesday I want to stay home and not go to the office, it will be just as easy for me to sit right here and accomplish my job as it will be if I drive down to First Avenue. And others, millions of others, will obviously adapt that same philosophy, I think, as well. So I think it's just the accelerated shove of humans being able to connect with one another in an environment that is not within an office environment.
I think our new normal is challenging traditional baselines in our industry. I'll give you an example. For decades, most organizations, and I'm one of those people, quite frankly, that have believed that everything has to be centralized in terms of middle office and back office operations. You got to sort of have a schematic, a process. People have to be there in person. And quite frankly, we've learned over the last 30 days, that's not exactly true anymore. I'll tell you at Cetera, 95% of our workforce, including our operational and back office and middle office, is working from home. Right? And what we've also found is that their productivity hasn't suffered one iota, even though phone calls and processing is up about 20 or 25%. We've also found that our net promoter scores are actually increasing. Like, who would have ever imagined that could happen in this type of an environment? So I think the reality is that a lot of companies are going to be poised with rethinking what used to be a staple in an industry for how we really do things. So I mean, when you look at your real estate footprint, when you look at your organizational structures, when you look at your human capital deployment, all of those things are fair game for saying, okay, how can we tweak that based on what we've learned over the past 30 days, as an example?
You know, I don't think I'm alone when I say that, you know, we have found out that it is easier than we thought getting everyone to work from home and giving everyone the capabilities they need to do their jobs from home. So I think that will probably persist into the future.
Because businesses have been forced to try and do everything remotely, they're going to figure out the things that work really well remotely and the things that don't work well remotely. And going forward, the jobs that do work well remotely, I think, are going to become remote jobs. I think we were halfway there with sales positions anyway, and I think we're going to go fully there. That means that office space, commercial office space, I think there's not going to be a great deal of demand for that over the next few years, because I think many businesses, when they do get the opportunity to expand, are going to question whether or not this new position they're creating can be something that's done remotely or not. So I feel like the push for remote work, I feel like that's going to be a permanent thing.
I heard an interesting quote, and I don't remember where I read it, but it was talking about the COVID-19 models and projections, and they said, in essence, I'm paraphrasing right here, that all models are wrong. Some are just more useful than others. And, the same could be said, I think, a lot for the business continuation plans that every major organization out there, had going into this pandemic. This is going to be kind of like the NCAA men's basketball tournament when they do have it again. Very rarely does anybody pick all winners for, I don't know that it's ever happened. It's kind of the same thing with planning. Your perspective as a leader, as a CEO, about business planning and about the plans that you put in place for your organization. Obviously, the plans that you had for 2020, they're not going to be realized in the way that you thought.
But you mentioned that I was in the military, and I remember when I was a second lieutenant, I was a brand new second lieutenant, and my first company commander told me, he said, I'm going to tell you what your number one job is as an Army officer and as a leader. He said, you're going to care about your mission. You're going to care about your soldiers. You're going to care about all your equipment that the Army entrusts you with. He said, but your number one job as a leader is to make good decisions. You can't worry about the outcome, and you can't control the outcome. And even when you think about all these models that are out there and they try to predict the end, right? They try to predict the final result. Just like I don't think anybody can predict who's, every bracket in the NCAA tournament, as you mentioned. To me, that's what you have to try to do as a leader, is just try to make good decisions. If you make good decisions, most of the time you'll get a good outcome. I mean, sometimes you do get a bad result, and that's unfortunate. But if you make good decisions and you focus on the decisions you make and not actually focused on the results, I think we can all get through this. I think about this through my entire career, and I think about as we're dealing with this with the virus right now, right? We all want this to end. We all hope it's going to end. But there's still so many unknowns. We learn new information really almost weekly, daily or hourly. And it's a pretty scary time for all of us. But I think, worrying about kind of when it's going to end, it doesn't help any of us because we can't control that. What we can do and what we can control is making good decisions. And that's not only business decisions, but it's all these personal decisions that we're making about social distancing, washing our hands, staying at home, wearing a mask. Definitely don't go out if you're not feeling well, and really try to stay home if you can. And I just believe this is just another lesson that we've all had to be reminded of, which is, we're not able to really predict when this is going to end, and we really can't control this outcome. But what we can do is make really good decisions now, because if we make good decisions now, we know we're going to have a good outcome.
Probably the first thing that we did as a company is just say, hey, how's everybody doing? Is anybody sick? And then we looked around and said, hey, how are we going to connect with our clients? And the number one thing that we've came up with, both in our company as well as other companies across the country, is just check in with people, see how they're doing. We're in the service business, and we're trying to make people's lives better. And so it's very comforting to know that some of the first instincts of both my company and other industry professionals was to really check in with people.
Way more client interaction, reaching out, calling folks, just a simple text. How you doing? How's the family? What are you doing to stay sane? Really engaging in a lot of, frankly, what the CWS really focuses on is that behavioral financial component of the engagement process.
I think that's one of the key things is staying in front of them and saying, hey, we're here, we built a plan, and reassuring. So one of the first things I did 4 weeks ago was did a YouTube video, which is the first time I've ever done that, so clients are seeing my face, and more importantly, telling them, or interpreting what they're hearing on the news and the media, et cetera. So I think they enjoyed that. The overwhelming response was, hey, Lindsey, we're not worried about these markets. We're concerned about you, your families, et cetera. So outside of a handful of clients calling regarding the market volatility, all I'm really hearing and my assistants are hearing in their touch base calls is, what I'm really struggling with is not seeing my grandkids, or I'm not able to go to Frederick Meyer Gardens and volunteer like I usually do. So where we said it's most important that we try and help them through this, and so that they can socially stay active and physically stay active, et cetera. So we actually a couple of weeks ago did a video sharing some exercises, a YouTube video that we sent out. So I thought that was kind of fun, and clients kind of like that. But really the concern has been more, that they miss seeing their grandkids. And I think one of the positive things that has come out of this is some of my clients, which never did FaceTime before, or hadn't done a reading group or a Zoom meeting with friends, or haven't used an Amazon Echo. I've heard lots of stories about different things that they're trying things and knew that they might not have ever had to do. So definitely being very flexible and resilient through all of this.
We're just reaching out to clients. And it was an interesting decision. Do you start a firm in the middle of the coronavirus? And what we decided to do is you just have to keep moving. People need advice right now. And so we're on the phone with clients and prospects, just wrapping our arms around them, being great listeners, hopefully being great coaches, trying to bring even a little bit of certainty to the uncertain world that we live in, at least as it relates to their financial situation. And so we've just really focused on touch, in the frequency at which we do it. I'd stay close, be studying how can you reach out and help the businesses in your local community. That work today may not make you $1 today, but I think what we learned in 08, 9, and 10 is the brands that really flourished when the economy recovered were the brands that helped. People remember who reached out and helped them during difficult times. So be thinking about who in the community you can impact, not only because it's the right thing to do, but I think you're planting the seeds for growth in your business that you'll see in the years ahead.
But we've been through stresses before. Now this is different, obviously, the shelter in place and all those kinds of things. But for example, this team came together through the financial crisis in 08. So we know what it is to be stressed and be challenged by the market environment, by the economy. And so, for example, coming out of that, we created a process we call multiple scenario analysis. And that goes into our investment strategies, but also goes into our business planning. So we encourage all the members of the team to get together to talk about what a best case scenario looks like, what a base case scenario looks like, and what worst case scenarios look like, and actively interact and be involved in those decision-making processes. So for example, if we see a worst case scenario, let's make that as good as possible, right? And so we reach out to everyone for ideas, because you never know where the next great idea is going to come from. And that level of engagement with our team, I think keeps people involved, keeps them inspired, keeps them excited to help drive this thing.
I do think that while what we do professionally in some ways is different than that of a professional athlete, I do think there's a lot of similarities as well. And one of the similarities, particularly now during this crisis, is the importance of all of us ensuring that not just we, but also more broadly, the teams that we have the privilege of partnering with are performing at peak performance, if you will. And that we all really view this to be much more of a marathon than a sprint, as the saying goes. And so one of the best ways that I've been self-managing and also trying to lead and support our team here at Raymond James is by making sure we're really focused on the health, the well-being, both physically and mentally, of everyone on our teams, including ourselves. One of my favorite quotes, and I was reminded of this a few weeks ago as this crisis continued to evolve and unfold as it has, comes from General Colin Powell, who once said that perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. And I've long been a believer in that statement. And I think it's true right now more than ever. And so I think it's really important that we be as visible as we possibly can with our teams. And technology like this adds certainly a great nuance to that visibility, because by leveraging these types of tools, you can be seen and see your teams. And not only is it important that we be perpetually optimistic, and it has to be sincerely so, but in addition to that, I think it's really important that we be consistent. And if anything, it's important that we over communicate to our teams right now, because they can't hear the optimism enough. They can't see you enough. So we have really stepped up the cadence of communications.
I'm a person that's about leverage, meaning I want to be able to leverage my time to connect with as many people as possible. I also talk to people about having a presence in your absence. And this is going to be a time with clients to where the financial advisor isn't able to connect with all those clients and get in front of them. So here is something that I think is important with the market environment that we're in. It's changing every day. It's up massively for a couple of days and it's back down. You want to be able to get with your clients. And the question becomes, well, who's my most important client? Who do I need to call first? This idea alleviates the issue of who is my most important client, because in reality, they're all your most important client. So what we have some advisors do that I love is they set up their own personal conference call line. And as things change in the market, if we have something that is very timely, for instance, the stimulus package, right? It just passed. They want to make sure their clients know some of the benefits that are coming from that. And so they would set up a conference call and have that with their clients. Do not set it up for questions. Have it that you carve out the next part of the day from 9 a.m. to 12, where a client can email you and have specific time with you. That allows you to be proactive, and it allows the client to engage with you on the back end.
Like many others, we've had both internal calls. We've used our platform within the brokerage firm as well as within the larger context of FMS. And that, for those who don't know, that's just our acronym for the trust company, the brokerage firm, the family office, and other parts of our investment organization. We're using the expertise that we have, which we have plenty, but really smart guys and gals, and we're using them to put them on the phone and WebEx with our other Synovus-based team members. So we're building that engagement, and largely it's around what's going on in the environment, and we had one this morning, in fact. And we've done a couple now for just directly to our customers, where we're having our advisors invite our customers into a WebEx type setting where we use our own internal and then sometimes external expertise or partners that we have who are willing to get on a 45-minute call with our clients and just talk to them and just talk to them about what's going on and answer their questions. I think that's given our advisors an ability to feel useful beyond just investment advice.
I think we're looking, for content to help our advisors, right? So what can they share with their clients to keep markets in perspective? So we're generating a lot of that. Our service teams are, everything, our trade volumes, our calls in have increased over 100%. So our service teams have really staffed up and are handling call volumes like they never have. They're doing a great job.
When our reps in the field are holding their clients' hands, we need to make sure that we're holding our reps' hands and we're making it easy to do business with us, and we're responding to their questions and concerns, and basically we need to help business get done. And my team has been excellent at doing that.
I've long believed, as I know so many of us do in the financial services industry, that this is a noble profession, and that clearly behind what a physician may do to positively impact someone's physical well-being, particularly today, or if someone is of faith, what their pastor, their rabbi, their minister may do to positively impact someone's spiritual well-being. I have long believed that what we do as financial professionals to positively impact our clients' financial well-being ranks right up there from a societal standpoint, and leads me to believe and take great pride in the fact that this is a noble profession. And I know that all of us in this profession stand shoulder to shoulder right now in making a difference, not just in the lives of our clients, but also the communities in which we all live and work. And so my hat's off to every single financial advisor for doing what you're doing today to make a difference. It does count.
I always commend you and Canon for staying ahead of the curve.